Besides the fact that this looks incredibly fun, assuming you're not prone to motion sickness, there's a practical side, possibly a life-saving one, to a jet suit being demonstrated in the European country of Romania. Between the Carpathian Mountains and the Transylvanian Alps, this is a nation with a lot of rugged terrain, and the paramedic who recently donned the flight suit did it to show that it could save a lot of time in a high-altitude rescue. How much time? At a mountain that's a popular tourist attraction, it would take rescuers about 2.5 hours to hike to the summit in the event of an emergency. Wearing the jet suit, the paramedic was able to get there in 2 minutes. The suit is capable of going 85 miles per hour, as high as 12,000 feet in the air, but it has a potential drawback for paramedic teams. Starting price is almost $500,000 per suit, so some communities that could benefit from it may not be able to afford it. Plus, flying the suit is reportedly a lot harder than it looks. This is the world from A to Z, your nonpartisan source for news and events from across the globe. And I get the honor of welcoming you. My name is Carl Azuz. It means the world to have you watching. The past few days made for an eventful Memorial Day weekend in the United States. While people across the country attended parades and remembrance ceremonies for those who gave their lives in service. While President Joe Biden took part in the traditional wreath-laying at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington National Cemetery, while thousands attended fireworks shows and barbecues in what's seen as the unofficial start of summer, many Americans across several states endured the threat of severe seasonal weather. The U.S. is said to have the most violent weather of any country, and this is a big part of the reason why. Arkansas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Texas were struck by a line of powerful storms and tornadoes. When we produced this show yesterday, USA Today was reporting that at least 21 lives were lost across those 4 states. More than a third of the counties in Texas were under a disaster declaration, which speeds up resources and money to the areas that need it. It was the same across the state of Kentucky, whose governor says one of the tornadoes that hit there was on the ground for at least 40 miles. Chunks of hail hit some southern states, with pieces the size of softballs being photographed in Oklahoma, and severe weather warnings stretched as far north as New York on Monday evening. Though that disrupted lives and plans across large parts of America, Memorial Day remained an occasion to remember and reflect on the sacrifices of its fallen servicemen and women, and some received recognition more than 150 years after they served.
On a blustery spring Saturday in York, Pennsylvania, the Civil War service of John Noble is finally memorialized.
Present arms!
Noble was born in Havana, Cuba around 1832. He fought for the Union Army from 1862 to 1863, and in 1902, he was buried in North York's Lebanon Cemetery. Until the 1960s, one of the only burial sites in the area for African Americans. Samantha Dorm is co-founder of a volunteer group called Friends of Lebanon Cemetery. When the group first came together in 2019, the primary mission was upkeep. Now the focus has expanded to research, storytelling, education, and remembrance.
The truth of the matter is, many of those stories are not there to be found. If you don't have families who can tell you about their ancestors.
The more than 150-year-old cemetery, Dorm says, is the final resting place of at least 300 U.S. military veterans. This spring, Noble and 4 other black veterans received the grave markers to which every eligible U.S. military veteran is entitled, whether buried in a cemetery maintained by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs like this one in Alexandria, Virginia, or a private cemetery like Lebanon.
This is reaching out beyond those boundaries to private cemeteries that maybe the graves haven't been maintained and the markers have been damaged or destroyed.
Making sure every veteran's service is honored. In Alexandria, Virginia, I'm Karen Kafa.
On this date in world history. This was the date a few years ago when a solar eclipse reportedly ended a war. By a few years ago, we mean 2609. The Medes and the Lydians had been fighting for years, and they were in the middle of a battle when an apparent solar eclipse darkened the day. The two sides took it as a sign they should call it quits, so historians say they did and ended their war. The event on May 28, 585 BC came to be known as the Battle of the Eclipse. Hard to eclipse that, if you know what I'm saying. On this date in 1830, U.S. President Andrew Jackson signed a law called the Indian Removal Act. Its aim was to relocate Native American tribes in the Southeast to unsettled land in the American West. There were a number of treaties that followed, but the forced removal of the Cherokee Nation, which refused a treaty to leave its land, resulted in thousands of Cherokee deaths and became the Trail of Tears.
The wreck of one of the most storied U.S. Navy submarines of World War II has been found. The USS Harder was sunk in a battle in the Philippines in 1944 and was thought lost to the ages until recent data was provided by the Lost 52 Project, a group efforting to find all 52 U.S. submarines lost in World War II. 8 decades later, the sub, which had the motto of "Hit 'em harder," was found sitting upright and mostly intact 3,000 feet down in the South China Sea.
Word of knowledge. Which of these options is a term for a sweetener made from palm tree sap? Hendricane, Bonarin, Jaggery, stevia. Stevia comes from a South American plant, but not the palm tree. The sweetener from palm sap is jaggery.
Although all of those options kind of rock. Africa, India, and Pakistan are where you can find East Indian palm trees, the kind that produce the sap used to make jaggery. And it's in northern Pakistan, where we're going next today, that farmers are laboring with old-fashioned methods to carry on the old tradition of producing a mineral-rich sweetener.
We sell around 100 to 120 sacks of jaggery every day.
This is jaggery, an organic, unrefined sweetener used to sweeten everything from tea and coffee to Indian sauces and desserts. But how do you turn this into this? First, workers put that sugarcane juice into a gigantic clay pot and heat it nearly 400 degrees. After it thickens into a syrup, workers start to shape it by hand.
Of course, our hands get burnt, but we don't have modern machinery. We love to do this.
Although it's still a type of sugar, jaggery is also considered a superfood because it has more vitamins and minerals than refined white sugar. Business owners say that's why it's so popular.
Normally, out of around 1,000 kilograms of sugarcane, we extract enough juice to make around 80 to 100 kilograms of jaggery.
5 kilograms of jaggery sells for about 600 rupees. That's about $2.50 in the United States, a day's wage for 3 out of 10 people in Pakistan.
Time for a quick look at who's watching today. We've got Mr. Beard's class with us from Tri-Village High School. It's great to see the Patriots in New Madison, Ohio, the Buckeye State. Moving to the eastern seaboard, Miss Kelsey's class is here from the Bay State of Massachusetts. Hello to everyone at the Brookside School in Great Barrington. And in the Tar Heel State, Mr. O'Neill's and Mrs. Ward's classes are online at Holly Ridge Middle School. The Hornets are a-buzzin' in Holly Springs, North Carolina. For our What in the World segment, it calls itself the greatest spectacle in tortoise racing. And they're off. This makes a really good argument for the hare. It's the Zoopolis 500, put on track by the Indianapolis Zoo, the 45th time the event has been, well, you can't really say run. 5 tortoises went shell to shell in a, well, you can't really say race, but one does pick up the pace when it sees what's waiting at the finish line, a platter of fruit that all the competitors got to enjoy. First place said to second place, "Shh, don't tell the others. We worked Raffaele hard to get here, and I, Leonard, don't want to share with a fellow fruit Michelangelo lover. Just keep your head down. Rep tell no one about this, and we'll have our own celebration that's totally awesome." Thank you for directing your eyes toward us on the world from A to Z. We hope to see you again tomorrow. You mean the world to me. I'm Carl Azuz.